It's a crazy thought, but what if a company's greatest success was actually its biggest weakness? Well, that's exactly the story of Microsoft. It's the story of a tech giant that had to literally escape the shadow of its own legendary creation, Windows, just to survive and thrive again.
This quote right here, it really gets to the heart of our story. It's a warning, really. The very thing that makes you successful can also become a trap. And for Microsoft, that one brilliant, world-changing, great idea was Windows.
Now, a story about a massive corporate transformation, you'd think it starts in a fancy boardroom, right? Well, not this one. This one begins on a quiet street with a CEO on a morning run who is about to face a really, really difficult truth.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's May 2013. We're in London, and Microsoft's CEO at the time, Steve Ballmer, is catching his breath after a run. But he's not just thinking about his pace. He's wrestling with this immense pressure to completely change the direction of one of the world's most powerful companies.
And this pressure, it was coming from absolutely everywhere. The board was demanding a new management structure, shareholders were calling for a new focus, a pivot to mobile devices and online services. The world was just changing so fast, and honestly, Microsoft was getting left in the dust.
And in that moment, Ballmer had this just stunning realization. He confessed later that he understood the company needed to break its old patterns. And then came the real gut punch. He realized that he was the pattern. He was the one who had to go.
So what exactly was this pattern that he was talking about? Well, it was something we're calling the Windows paradox, the story of how the very product that built the Microsoft empire was now pretty much holding it captive.
This brings us to a really powerful concept, scar tissue. A past success, like Windows, creates this protective layer around a company. But just like real scar tissue, it eventually becomes rigid, it prevents flexibility and new growth. It traps you into making these small improvements on the old thing while you completely miss the massive transformations happening all around you.
And here is where the paradox really kicks in. Because by all the traditional measures, Microsoft looked invincible. Under Ballmer, annual revenue had tripled to a staggering $78 billion.
On top of that, profits had grown by 132%. So the numbers looked fantastic. The company was an absolute money-making machine. So what was the problem? Why on earth would you change a thing?
Well, this was the problem. While Microsoft was so busy protecting and optimizing Windows, it was missing almost every major technological shift of the decade. Web browsers, search, digital music, mobile, social media, and by 2013, they were about to miss the biggest one yet, the cloud. This list just perfectly illustrates the real cost of that scar tissue.
And the root cause was all internal. Ballmer had fostered this fiercely competitive culture. Teams were organized into silos, measured against each other, and literally pitted against one another. Now, that worked wonders when the only goal was to dominate the PC market with Windows, but it completely crippled collaboration when the company needed to innovate and evolve.
So Ballmer's departure opened the door for the next chapter. A new leader arrived, and he brought a radically different vision for Microsoft's future.
And the change happened fast. In 2013, Ballmer has his realization. Just 1 year later, Satya Nadella is CEO. And from that moment on, the company began this monumental pivot towards the cloud, towards AI, and towards a completely new culture. And we're talking about a fundamental transformation. The old culture of competitive silos gave way to collaboration. The focus shifted from Windows first to cloud and AI. But maybe the most profound change was in the mindset, from a know-it-all culture that thought it had all the answers to a learn-it-all culture that was always curious and searching for them.
Nadella's philosophy was clear. He knew that in a fast-changing world, you can't just predict the next big thing. You have to build a culture of innovation that is constantly experimenting, so you're ready for the future before it becomes the norm.
So what's the core lesson from Microsoft's comeback? It's a simple but powerful idea. You need to focus on building capabilities, not just rigid corporate structures.
You see, Nadella's critical move was to shift the company's entire organizing principle. For years, Microsoft was built around business units like the Windows division. That's efficient, sure, but it creates silos. He replaced them with capabilities, these agile teams built around skills like AI or cloud computing, designed to innovate and collaborate across the entire company.
So how do you chase those massive 10x growth opportunities? You can't do it from inside a rigid silo. You have to empower teams to be flexible, to adjust their plans quickly, and to value adaptability more than a fixed organizational chart. That's the secret to breaking free from your own success. And this brings us to the final, crucial question. And it's not just for Microsoft, it's for all of us. What great idea from your past, what scar tissue, is protecting you, but also preventing you from seizing the better ideas of tomorrow?